Hello, Malcolm. How are you?
Hey, James. I'm doing really, really good. How are you?
Good, good, good. It's always great to talk to you, and I'm really excited about this topic because I think a lot of people are going to learn and be touched by what we're going to be saying and talking about. For those of you who are joining me, I am talking with Malcolm Harris, who's an inspirational teacher best known for his show, Conversations with Malcolm, as you may recall because you've seen Malcolm in some of my other videos. Malcolm is the founder of the Hurston Group, which went on to partner with BET, Black Entertainment Television, to develop and launch an online news and advertising business. Since then, in addition to speaking nationally, Malcolm has formed the Co-Creation Company, which produces Conversations with Malcolm. The Co-Creation Company is a multimedia and licensing enterprise that focuses on developing and marketing products that support Malcolm's core mantra, create the life you desire to live. In addition to this, Malcolm advises some of America's top companies, Fortune 100, and federal agencies on communications strategies. So welcome again, Malcolm.
Thank you so much.
So you and I, in past videos, have talked about the importance of our decisions and how, if we are mindful and thoughtful, how they can play a role and guide us into the life that we most want to live. And so for this week, in honor of love, Valentine's Day is on Thursday, and in honor of love in the various forms it comes in and recognizing the various relationships we have, but both you and I thought it would be timely to talk about our loved ones, those people we deeply love, and the decisions that they make, especially if our loved ones continue to make the wrong decisions, and how we can help them cope with those decisions. So just to share with the people who are watching, I was sitting at home, I think it was a Tuesday night, I can't remember, but I was sitting at home watching Cissy Houston on the Oprah Winfrey's network, called the Oprah Winfrey Network, and she was interviewing Cissy, and she was talking about the decisions that Whitney Houston, her daughter, had made, the bad decisions that it made related to drug use and relationships, and how she had stood in the background and had sometimes approached her about these bad decisions, but mostly there was one moment where she was afraid to approach Whitney because she didn't want to be shut out of her life. Yeah. And so I'm watching this interview, and I think, I wonder, is Malcolm watching this interview too? And I texted you, yes. And you were watching it. We got to texting about all of the stuff that was going on because there was many, many topics in the interview. And you came up with this idea that we should talk about how to cope with loved ones who make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Brilliant topic. So I want to ask you first, as we start our interview after that long introduction, but I want to get people up to speed. What are your initial thoughts about this situation? So when someone is watching their loved one continually make bad decisions, what are your thoughts?
You know, I have to tell you that I think that one of the most painful experiences that anyone can ever endure is watching a loved one make poor decisions. And poor decisions can be anything from a loved one who has a drug addiction, like Whitney Houston's story, a loved one who consistently makes poor relationship choices. You look up and it's like, how do they consistently always end up with the person who's going to treat them in the worst way? And there are a number of other poor decisions, lifestyle choices in terms of how they treat their body. It's so painful to watch that because as their loved one, you want the best for them, but you feel powerless. And I think that the thing that we have to remember when we are faced with that experience, and most of us will be faced with that experience, I know I have multiple times, I think that we have to accept that our love is not enough to change anyone. Although we love someone and they may love us, at the end of the day, this person is making the choices that they're making because they are not ready to live healthy and whole.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that their decision not to live healthy and whole, and also their rejection of our help in some cases, because Cissy did mention that she did try at some points in time. Even their rejection of our help, it's not a rejection of us. it's a rejection of themselves. They're not ready to live at their fullest potential. And I think that's a very tough thing to experience.
Yes, that's really good. And I want to remind people who are watching, we're not talking about just the day-to-day decisions or the decision that your loved one makes once in a blue moon that might be the wrong decision, because what we do have to respect is that there will be some times where people make bad decisions, but those bad decisions help course correct the journey that they're taking to live a better life. So we're not talking about those. As you said, a key word, you said consistently. We're talking about the loved ones who continually make bad decisions, the habitual bad decision makers, and you can see them moving further and further away from the person that they really should be, the best person that they should be. So we are talking about that. So I want to talk about how you should approach someone. So if you are trying to, if you see that they're making those bad decisions, and you've made some really good points. So from there, how should you approach that person?
Well, I think that before we approach them, we first have to sort of approach ourselves. You know, we need to have a conversation with ourselves, and there are some questions that we need to ask ourselves, and I really do think that the first question that we have to ask ourselves is, how much do I love myself?
Yeah.
Because what we have to understand is this, and I can tell you, I was raised to be a nurturer. Right, so everyone in my life, I was raised to nurture them and take care of them, whether it's emotional support or otherwise. So for someone like me, and if you're anything like me, then you definitely understand where I'm coming from. For someone like me, when you have a loved one making poor decisions, we're affected by those decisions because we believe it's our job to nurture them into being their best. That's as a nurturer, that's what we want to do. And so we're deeply affected by it. And in being so deeply affected by it, sometimes we can lose touch with ourselves. We lose touch with doing what's healthy for us because we're so consumed with trying to help them and trying to get them to where we think they should be. So the question I think we have to ask ourselves is, how much do I love myself? Do I love myself enough to let go of my attachment to what I believe this person can become, right? And what I mean by that really is that sometimes we get so caught up in being attached to the potential that we believe this person should become, to what we believe this person should be, that we lose touch with reality. Yeah. So we invest so much of ourselves into trying to help them, and we lose everything in that process ourselves. Losing everything meaning losing ourselves. We lose our inner peace. So if we can decide that we love ourselves and we deserve to live happy, we deserve to be whole. If we love ourselves enough to do that, then we can go into that conversation with that person with an understanding that even though the person may not ultimately make the decisions that we want them to make, because we love ourselves enough to know that we deserve to be happy and whole, then we're also willing to make some hard choices that could come out of that person not making the choice to be happy and whole. And it could be, giving some distance between us and that person, because we have to love ourselves enough not to include toxic things in our life. So that's why I believe that loving ourselves is really that first conversation that we have to have before we can even think about approaching our loved one.
It's so, so true. I think that's really, I'm just, as I always in these conversations, I'm digesting, I'm just eating it up, Because that is true. We have to start with ourselves. We have to approach the person and this issue and these bad decisions with the correct intentions. And the correct intentions aren't, I'm going to be right and they're going to be wrong. There has to be the correct intentions of how much do I love myself, and being able to detach yourself from the results of who you really want that person to be. Very, very, very good. Very good. So what are some specific things? So we've moved it. We know that this person is making the bad decisions. Now we've gotten to a point where we are loving ourselves, and we are about to approach the person who's making the loved one. It could be a family member, a boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whomever, but we're about to approach our loved one. What are some of the specific things that you feel that we can say to just initiate the conversation with the loved one?
I think that any conversation has got to start with this in mind, and you can state this out loud. I love you, but I also love myself. And because I love myself, I cannot remain in this relationship in the same way that I've remained in this relationship if you are going to continue to make these types of decisions, right? So what you're acknowledging is that this outcome, whatever comes out of this conversation, is going to impact both of us. Because for me, this conversation just isn't about getting you to change. This conversation is me drawing a line in the sand that's saying that unless you can commit to change and I can see it happen over a consistent period of time, I'm going to have to change the way that I interact with you because I love myself. And to remain in a relationship with you in its current form while you're making these types of decisions, frankly, is not healthy for me.
Right.
So don't make the conversation just about them. I need you to change. I want you to change. You're making bad choices. It's not about them. This is a relationship. It's a shared dynamic. And you're approaching them not just because of their poor decisions. You're approaching them really and truly because of how their poor decisions are affecting your ability to be in relationship with them and affecting your ability to remain healthy. So this conversation is about both of you all.
Both of you, yes. Yes, there has to be a dialogue. So many people see that their loved ones are making bad decisions, and it's all about them preaching to the loved one or telling them about their, feelings and points of view. But it does have to be a dialogue. I was in a conversation with a loved one, I will say. I'm not going to get too personal with the people who are watching. But I was in a conversation with a loved one, and what was so amazing that the loved one said to me that really broke my heart open was, I want to understand why you are making these decisions. And they said it in a way that wasn't a judgment way, but what they really wanted to understand is I want to see from your point of view what you are dealing with. And I thought that really helped start the conversation.
That's
like you
a very
said,
powerful question.
It's a very powerful question. It's a meaningful question, and it really does help start a conversation and really keeps you in dialogue. Your loved one is really able to share their point of view and do it in a way that they don't feel like you are coming to them on an attack, but you are coming to them to learn. And that you are, as you said, such a good point, Malcolm, that in order for you to keep the relationship, that both of you have to be respected in some way. It's a conversation. It is both of you in the relationship. And if I love myself enough, we're going to have that conversation.